You can say you want to make a change in your life, but you can't be forced into meaningful change. You can be encouraged, you can even feel pressured, but until something in you shifts, you're still on the same basic path that you were on before. Willingness is the want to principle, and that's the shift you're looking for, and this is a big moment in the transformation process. It doesn't come with more effort. It only comes when we stop resisting and start participating in that process. And it's the moment that you go from I have to or should do to I want to. And that might sound simple, but it's not. Your entire nervous system is set up to stay in the safe zone. Even if something isn't working, if it's familiar, it gets marked as safe. So when you're facing a big challenge in your life, you're not just facing effort, you're facing resistance to the unfamiliar. And when change asks you to go outside that comfort zone, your system usually starts pushing back. And that's not because you're lazy. It's because there's still a part of you that is saying no, even if it's just in there whispering quietly in the background. And even if it's not really clearly saying no, if it's on the fence, it's like refusing to respond to an RSVP. There's an invitation to change in front of you. And if you really want to find the motivation to make something meaningful, you have to accept that invitation with some amount of enthusiasm. You have to choose it. And that's important because that kind of change doesn't just happen to you. It happens when you agree to it and decide to make it happen. And there's this big gray area between knowing something needs to change and wanting it to change. And most people are living in that gray area somewhere for a while when there's no real outside pressure, when it's all up to you or something that's just for you. What do? If we're being really honest with ourselves about it, most of us let ourselves off the hook by putting it off. And not necessarily by saying no to it. Maybe we actually do gather some information and think about it. And we might talk about it. We might buy some books or watch a few videos like this. And those can be big steps in the right direction, but sometimes that's as far as we ever get. Maybe sometimes we don't even get that far. Maybe the books just sit on the shelf and we never come back for the next video because we can so easily distract ourselves, scrolling away on our phones for hours and maybe occasionally beating up on ourselves for putting things off and making ourselves feel better with an excuse or two and never really stepping all the way in. And I'm not calling you out. It's incredibly common. We all do it sometimes, but this whole channel was set up to help you create an ongoing practice. Not just the book study, but all of it, so that almost every day you can find some amount of inspiration and some direction and some ideas for making a change in your life that really makes a difference. But it probably won't make a big difference if you're not all the way in. And that doesn't mean that everything has to be perfect. I say that all the time because it's true. You don't have to get up right now and change your whole life. Everything that we practice here can be a part of the preparation phase, and that's an important phase. Just showing up with the all-in attitude sends a signal that says, I'm ready to do this. This is something that I want to do. And even if you don't know exactly how to do it just yet, willingness says, with your agreement, anything is possible. But without it, nothing sticks. Because you can't be dragged into this kind of work. No amount of pressure or advice can keep you moving in the right direction if you don't really want it. That's why this part matters so much. Any feelings of resistance or hesitation can be transformed into enthusiasm and excitement in this transitional energy center that connects the solar plexus and the heart. We're right at the halfway point here. All the work ahead requires the right kind of energy. And that's what we're working on here. We're not just halfway in, we're all the way in now. The intentions that you set for willingness are looking at the bigger picture with all 12 principles spinning at the edge of the image to remind you that they really are all working together to make something in your life that lasts. Sending out a signal that says, I am actively accepting the invitation to change and inviting a new attitude, transforming fear into a real desire to create more excitement. Imagine yourself quitting on complacency and inviting more curiosity into your thought process. And sometimes that means saying no to the easy thing. And it always includes actively choosing to say yes to the right thing. And all of those intentions are fostering this new attitude. And it is something to think about. When I've got students and clients that are nervous about standing in front of large groups of people, I tell them that fear isn't necessarily a bad thing. If you weren't a little bit afraid, you probably wouldn't care enough. And there's a really fine line between fear and excitement. You can ask anybody who likes to jump out of airplanes. The same goes for complacency. It naturally starts to fade away when you get curious about what you can do right now. Say no to the easiest course of action when you know it doesn't feel right automatically leads to listening to the part of you that does know the right thing to do. And all of that leads to staying on the right path and moving in the right direction with the right kind of energy. The meditation for willingness is the archer's seal and an affirmation that says, I am ready. Setting off in a new direction, looking for the emotions that help you take aim on your target and asking the unconscious mind to get on board and help you get excited about it, and opening yourself up to ideas for getting prepared and getting motivated, and opening yourself up to anything that helps you feel inspired. And you want to make sure you're not lying to yourself. You're just affirming that you want to make a connection with the energy that knows where you're going and how to stir up all the good feelings that would go along with the end goal. We've talked about this before, just briefly, but in almost every situation, it's the feeling that you imagine having when you get to the goal that you want more than you want whatever you might get when you get there. And you can start conjuring those feelings right now. Without lying to yourself, this is the principle that says the journey really can be more exciting than the destination, and you can open yourself up to those feelings by checking your attitude. The reflection for willingness is centered on the reminder to adjust your attitude, seeking enthusiasm, because that is an extremely powerful motivator. Putting an end to procrastination as you set clear goals and make clear plans. Take time to write about why you want what you want and explore all the options that you might have been ignoring before, and ask yourself as often as you need to, how can I adjust my attitude? How could I use this practice to create a sense of enthusiasm for the process? What can I do to prepare myself for whatever comes next? How can I get willing, and how can I start getting ready for what really does need to be done? And it doesn't have to be a really loud, over-the-top kind of excitement. I mean, maybe it is, or maybe at least it can be at some point, but this kind of excitement is just a clear signal that you're all in and taking a genuine interest in what you can do to become the version of you that does make things happen. And you don't have to have a massive, detailed plan right now. Just keep asking, where in my life do I already know something needs to change, but I haven't fully said yes to it yet? The archetype for willingness is the archer, always reminding you to open up and take aim on what you want. Pointing the way to inspired action, opening your mind to see new ideas, choosing a clear target, looking for solutions, removing limitations where you can, and constantly sharpening your focus. Getting things done because you want to, not because you have to. And reminding yourself that this is something that you do for you, and that it isn't just about getting things done, it's about how you do all the things. And instead of dragging your feet and putting things off or reacting at the last minute because you don't have a choice, or forcing yourself to do something that you really don't want to do, you start actively choosing the next right thing over and over again. And if adjusting your attitude still feels like a hard thing to do, you practice. check the links in the description and go to the Principles for Practice playlist. Tomorrow you'll find a 3-minute version of this that you can come back to as often as you need as a reminder to keep setting the targets for your intentions on the bigger picture, knowing where you want to go and accepting the invitation to go there, affirming the preferred pathway for your thoughts and the emotions that lead to taking meaningful action. Seeking more enthusiasm while you're making your plans by asking the hard questions instead of ignoring them. And instead of avoiding who you really are and what needs to be done, you start engaging with the part of you that knows you can do what you need to do with the right attitude. And if you're paying attention, that part of you will keep sending you signals through your thoughts and your feelings to help you know when you're on the right path. And if your attention is trained on that path, you'll know when you're moving in the wrong direction, and you can adjust your approach and get back on track anytime. And not just because you know it's the right thing to do, but because you want to. And all you need to do right now is work on getting willing and getting ready. Get busy setting your sights on what you really want by checking your attitude.